Hello everybody, I'm Bert with the PBIS Applications Training Team. I want to welcome you to our third in a series of videos focused on the graphs found in the SWIS Equity Report. In this video, we will talk specifically about the rates by group graph. As you can see, we are already in the SWIS Equity Report and have scrolled down to graph number 3, the rates report. This report shows the average number of outcomes per student for each of the individual subgroups. For this example, the outcome we chose was all referrals. So we're looking at the average number of referrals per student for each group. Considering the risk index, the risk ratio, and the rates by group graphs, the rates graph is the most stable way to ask the how much question for each student. On average, how many times are students within each group issued a specified outcome? When we open the data table, we can see that SWIS calculates the rate by dividing a group's total number of outcomes, in this case referrals, by the total number of students in the group. We can also see the rate for a specified comparison group chosen in settings. In this case, and by default, we are comparing each group to the group of all other students. When we look at the information for our Hispanic Latinx students, we can see that 100 students who identify as Hispanic Latinx have received 155 referrals. 155 divided by 100 is 1.55. So on average in our demonstration school, students who identify as Hispanic Latinx are likely to receive about 1.55 referrals per student. And the group of all other students, those who did not identify as Hispanic Latinx, receive on average about 1.24 referrals per student during the same time period. In this school, students who identify as Hispanic Latinx receive referrals at a rate higher than their comparison group of all other students. Back on the graph, we see the rates for each group displayed. There is also one extra group labeled all. This is the average rate for the total school enrollment. This is not the comparator group of all other students. We see that on average, all the students in the school have received about 1.30 referrals per student. We can compare each group's rate to each of the other groups, and we can also compare to the school's total enrollment average rate. But remember, if you want to compare one subgroup rate to their comparison group rate of all other students, you'll have to remember to look for that comparison in the data table. In our perfect world, all groups would receive an outcome at about the same rate. In this graph, we quickly notice that 3 groups receive referrals at a rate higher than the school's average rate, and at a noticeably higher rate than the remaining groups. Having noticed some discrepant outcomes using the risk index, the risk ratio, and now the rates by group graph, we might next want to look at the remaining 2 equity report graphs to see if we can understand more about this discrepancy or even detect the composition of that discrepancy. What's it about? How is this happening? We may discover more when we look at the graph about just the students who have already received the specified outcome we're exploring. Let's do that in video number 4, Students with Outcomes.